It's right before your eyes. Step by step, you're on your way. Welcome to a brighter day. Don't you know it feels good to be alive? You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today, learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning and welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live here in Armenia, Colombia. And today, right now, it's about 78, 79 degrees. We're going to have a high of around 81, a low 5 in the morning, maybe about 62 degrees. This afternoon, probably going to rain. And Colombian peso. Man, we're taking it in the teeth. 37.64. So, yeah, it's been better. Just to give you an idea, let's compare it to $1,000 a year ago. So $1,000 a year ago compared to today, we've lost $60 for that $1,000. Of course, then you have exchange rate that comes into play, you know, so it's difficult to do a direct comparison, but something like that. Yeah, so it's never fun. What's going on? People are saying, well, it's a peso is this, a peso is that. And not really. What it is the dollar is very weak, and that's an issue. That's why you're seeing gold prices skyrocket. I think gold is getting it won't be long. It's up to $3,000 an ounce. So, they need to quit creating unsupported debt that causes the dollar to weaken, and that will definitely help us. And it's all about us, right? So so there's that. All right, I got a lot of notes here, and they're rather small. I can't really see, but today I would say it's kind of a follow-up on the cost of living last week. We're going to talk about choosing a lifestyle, and I think you'll find it interesting. Maybe I'll give you some things to think about that you haven't considered. So we'll do that. And before I get to a few things about this week, and then the news articles, and then the topic, let's go over the Let's go over the chat here. All right. First one. Tell us what's happening with healthcare. I hear they are closing by the government enforcement. Pretty good topic. Almost deserves its own topic. Let me get through what I have, because this showed up this morning. Let me get through what I have, and if we have time, remind me, and I'll give you a quick overview of what's going on. All right, what else we got here? We've got Yuka. Thank you very much. And Yuka, greetings from Finland. How you doing? Glad you're here this week. Hope you had fun with the grandkids last week. Michael Meyer, good morning from Los Angeles. How you doing? What's it like living in a communist country, Michael? Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale, 397 days. You know, I was going to tell you, well, now that you're under 400, I'm going to quit picking on you, but nah, I can't do that. 397 days. We don't even know if we got that much life left in us. So, I mean, come on. All right. Before I go on to the next, I forgot the weather cam, or whatever we're going to call it. Here we go. Look, it's pointed in a different direction, showing that new building that's going up. That thing's put on, I think, 6 floors since I moved here. It's actually, that's as tall as it's going to get. And, you know, your typical clouds are down. I mean, people say, it's really always foggy. No, those are clouds. We live up in the clouds is what it boils down to, which is pretty nice. All right, Turtles, Koto Turtle here. How you doing? We had a lot of conversations lately, and he was part of some drama, which is actually going to be next week's topic. And let me give you a teaser. Here we go. This is going to be the thumbnail for next week's topic. Scammed 3 times. Yeah, and some of it's a little embarrassing, but I'm going to tell you, you know, 3 times since I've been here in Colombia. I don't mean scam like something at a checkout. I mean something entailing thousands. So I'm going to, yeah. We'll say it's a precautionary tale. You know, I guess time to come clean. But that's next week. All right, Gil, good morning from Northern California. It's still communist country, but good morning. How you doing? Good morning from Kentucky, Pennsyltucky. I don't know where that came from, but all my life we called it Pennsyltucky. Love the place, though. It's awesome. Rob, volume slightly low. Mic position the same. Yes. Here, no, it's all the same. Let's see. I don't know if I can turn it up here. It might get distorted. You're gonna have to let me know if it's distorted. Contributions. Let me. Gil, thank you for the contribution. I appreciate it. Let me throw it up on the screen here. Thank you very much. And Ron to the Z, thanks for all you do for us. Whoa, nice one. Thank you very much. After what I tell you about later, you'll see. Well, next week you'll definitely know why. That's pretty awesome. But all right, where was I? Let me get back here. Less than 2 months and we'll be in Colombia. Very cool. Sebastian, where the hell are you? Get down here and don't say, I'm in Chicago. You know, get your butt down here. Isn't Chicago, no, Chicago's not communist country. It's the Wild West. That's what it is. Mr. AKA Ben Lake, good day. How you doing? Eagle, good morning from Dallas, Texas. How you doing? Rob, sound better. See, I didn't do anything. I tricked you. No, I turned it up, but it's up so high. I'm really afraid that it's too high. I mean, is it distorted at all? I mean, maybe it's not. It was already quite high. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's on this end. I don't, those settings I don't change. But you know, my fandom with YouTube, yeah, who knows? Sounds good for me the whole time. All right. Yeah, it could very well be local connections, you know, where you are. It could be something with YouTube. Restrictions come and go. We've seen that over the years. You guys that have been with me, you'll see it during the same video where things will change up, and all of a sudden, you know, it'll start pixelating or it'll start freezing. And here I'm sitting on my end. My internet, I measured it the other day. I'm paying for 300 and it's a fiber optic, but I ran a check the other day because I was talking to somebody about it. I've been running at 400 up and down. I'm not paying for it, but that's what they're giving me. And that's not unusual here. You tend to get more than you pay for, but I've never had that big of a jump. But I'm not arguing. The thing is, you know, you get up over 100, and except for a few things, kind of hard to tell, because especially if you're on the internet, most of the issues with speed are not your internet. It's the internet itself. Anyway, Michael, sound is fine on my end. Okay, cool. All right, where was I? This week, yesterday, I spent 2 hours in the Bank Colombia. I have an account with Bank Colombia. I know I tell you guys don't do that, but I also tell you don't do that your first year or two until you kind of get the lay of the land. There's some complications to it. You don't want to put yourself into an unnecessary tax situation. And people say, well, you got to pay your fair share. Well, I mean, you know, what a stupid slogan that is. On the other hand, I paid my fair share all my life. I'm not talking about cheating on taxes. I'm saying don't voluntarily pay a tax that you're not required to pay. I keep getting these messages and it doesn't seem to get through to some people. If you want to take your money and just send it off to the Colombian government, even though they're not looking for it and you don't owe it, by all means, go for it. I really don't care. But don't be squawking at me. I live legally. I do everything legally. I do everything by the book here. I look into things to make sure I'm not doing something wrong, because it's important to me never to put myself in a situation where I might get deported. But I'm not going to volunteer to pay a tax that I don't have to. And if you're not careful, you can find yourself in that situation where you almost have to buy your way out of a particular thing. But, excuse me, I'm in the bank. I'm in the bank for two reasons. One is when I went to Cali and I got that rental car, I paid for it with points, rental car points over the last few years. They added up and it was enough to pay for the car. So that was cool. But they always want a guarantee. Now, they don't charge you for a guarantee, but they have one of these old-fashioned credit card machines, and they put your card in it, and they've put like 3,800,000 pesos or something handwritten. They swipe it, and it's there if at some point it becomes needed, but they don't actually put a block on your card or anything like that. Sorry, throat's a little raspy today. So I got a message when I was in Cali on my phone saying there's an unusual charge on your card, because they have the same algorithms here. And it said, did you charge to, what is it, Satega or something, Satana? Did you charge 1,675,000 pesos just now? And I said, no. They said, okay, we will reject that. Take the credit card that you used for that, cut it up. We will send you out one right away. Now, that was on a Friday. And they did. I received it on Tuesday. So that was pretty cool. Pretty efficient about these. Once before I had something happen. And before they credited back to me. And this one, I told them not mine, and they were checking before they actually cleared the charge. So I'm thinking, okay, that's cool. So I was really busy. I got back, I got my credit card, and sometime that same week, I went in and I took a look at my account, and that charge was there. Now, what the hell is that charge doing there? I said no before you cleared it. Well, somehow somebody screwed up, and it was supposed to get taken care of, and it didn't. That's the inefficiency in Colombia. That kind of stuff happens also in part 2 of what I'm going to tell you. So I go into the bank. It took forever, but I'm very proud. I could have taken somebody I knew to help translate or whatever. Didn't really have problems with that. There no English speakers that I was talking to, but as bad as my Spanish is, and how grammatically what a nightmare it must be, the tenses and all of the, but I made myself understood. They got it, proceeded, and it was pretty cool because it was somewhat of a complicated explanation. And this girl came in and she had to go look something up, and so the woman who was taking care of me rapidly or normally told her in a nutshell what was going on, and I understood what she was saying, and she had it dead on. So that was pretty cool. I got a chance to see, did she really understand? But she did. She completely got it. They put a case number on it. They told me it will get returned, but it's going to be a number of days. So that's very cool. I've been living basically without any cash because that was more than what I would carry for the month for cash in pocket. So I'll be very glad it's kind of kept me from doing too much out there, because I don't want to go out and put things on a credit card. That's like, I'll use my credit cards now and then simply to show activity, because I'm eventually trying to get a car. And so you want to show something. But I don't need to be piling up debt, because the percentage rate here runs as high as around 35%. It's crazy. So you don't want to have debt because it'll pile up faster than you can pay it off. But anyway, so item 1 taken care of. Item 2, direct deposit. And I know I tell you all the things I told you, but there's apparently a law or regulation now, I'm told as of last year, that you cannot get a car loan or anything similar to a car loan unless you have direct deposit into a Colombian bank. I don't know. They told me last year. Could have been longer. I do know, simply because even after I told you a few weeks ago, I went out and tried again with a few places. Same thing. It always comes back. My credit's approved. Oh, they have credit like TransUnion or Experian. They have credit bureaus here like that. So I go on the internet and I find you put in your cedula number, and I found it, but it won't give me a report for free. So for $2 or $3, you can subscribe for the month, get your report, and then cancel it. It's a subscription. Like you see it in the US all the time. So I got my credit report, and I've never had such a good credit report in my life. It's almost near the top. It tells me that my credit is better than or is good. It puts me in the top 10% of all Colombians as far as the quality of my credit report. Now, here I am, a resident, which is one barrier, and I've got a credit report to die for. My history here going on almost 6 years, and they tracked it, things I didn't even realize, because I didn't know that they had this until recently. So I go and I see it, and they list everything out. It's just very similar to the US, and never missed a payment on anything ever. Of course, I knew that, but it was fun to see. You know, you get your top ranking on that and your credit to income and all of these things. So apparently I've done a pretty good job, but if I'm going to do a car, it's it's either wait another 2 or 3 years, which I really can't do. It costs me money now not having one because of things I'm doing. So I need a loan. I need a loan for the balance of what, you know, of what I have. And that requires a direct deposit. So we went through that, and it was pretty interesting. They require here a Social Security card. Now, I had gone in a few weeks back. I don't have a Social Security card. I lost it somewhere around 18, 19 years old. As you know, you don't need one. But I had to send off to, I go on my Social Security website, my account, and request a new card, and they sent it to my brother's address in New York, and he took photos of it, and I took that in, copies of it, and it was fine. But I had to wait for that. So they tell me now it'll be up to 3 months. It's most likely, I went on the Social Security site, and if I had done it, which they kind of don't, they make it difficult to do it. They want the bank to do it for you. Because I was trying to do that and I was having trouble getting a SWIFT number and all that. So anyway, I go in there and I look, and it said you can choose either the next month or the month after. So it's a month or two. If you do it through the website, they set up to 3 months. So I imagine it's about the same. So April, May or June, I guess, is when it'll kick in. And then once it actually has been there long enough to show that direct deposit, that'll be the point where I can go back and say, okay, get me a car. Excuse me. I'm going on with this because I know this is a topic that many people are actually interested in, even though it's not our topic today. So if you're bored with it, I'm sorry, but I'm doing it intentionally. Okay, so I did that. Coffee meeting was pretty good this week. We get it still at Vistago, and that'll be where it is next week. It was kind of light, but there were just 3 of us, but it's pretty cool. So if you're in and around, see you next week. After that, we'll probably switch to another one. Although this one's pretty awesome. Let's see. I'm moving to Edward. Moving to Cali in less than 8 weeks. I'll pay my share by supporting the local economy. Well, there's that. And then there's also whatever's legal. And I'm sure that you'll do it. I mean, most everybody does, because why not? And the thing is, if you position yourself correctly, you really won't even have tax obligations. So Turtle and myself have very similar retirement. He also has never had to, he hires an accountant to do it. He's never had to pay that tax either. Okay, how was Wednesday turnout? Just mentioned it. I don't plan to open a Colombian bank account anytime soon, and you shouldn't. Unless you have a reason, don't do it. I have a pretty, if you knew more of what's going on, which I cannot tell you yet, but you would understand why it's becoming very critical for me. 2-2 Liverpool. I assume you're talking about soccer. Timothy, you know if Colombia has restrictions with disabled veteran ratings? I'm a disabled veteran rating of 100%. I'm in the initial stage of wanting to move to Armenia. I don't know what you mean. Disabled veteran rating. I'm not disabled, I'm a veteran. And you would think that anything that I've done, something would come up with that. If you're talking about restrictions as in visa or something like that, there is a physical required. but it doesn't mean you have to be, you know, complete and 100%. I have two friends here that both were legally blind, and in both, well, at least in one of the cases, he's become totally blind. I don't really understand what you're saying, but veteran on anything I've ever done has never been a category. You know, the United States is the country that really has perpetual wars. In most other countries you go, it's like veteran, you know, it's few and far between and doesn't have the same meaning. What's the years? Oh, within the next few years. I'm getting married to a Colombian woman also. Okay. All right. So what else we got? Really sorry about. Let's get on with the news. What time is it? Holy moly. We haven't even got to the news yet. All right. Number one. It's in the news. Inflation. Armenia, among the cheapest cities. In March, it will be the one. Oh, in March, it was with the lowest inflation. We're talking rate of inflation. And I kind of went off the other day. You know, people talk about inflation like somehow when it goes away, it'll reverse thing. No, the prices are not going to reverse. It goes up. And even if you have a lower rate of inflation, it's still going up. It's still bad. But let me show you the national chart here. I don't know if you could see it. Depends on how you're watching it. But the lowest one is Santa Marta. I can't really see the next one. I see Rio. I can't see it very well from here either. It's kind of, the next one is Armenia. So third from the bottom. The one going up, higher rate of inflation. Again, this is March. It's Bucaramanga. Then you get a third of the way up. It's Cali. And then let's see, Monteria, it's halfway. Pereira, it's more than halfway. Ibagué, it's 5 from the worst. Medellin, Cucuta, Bogota, and then Florencia. So that's March. And so it's moderated here, but you wouldn't know it to feel it. And that goes to the next news item. Increase of up to 72% the cost of avocado in Colombia. Now that's talking about Hass avocados, the regular avocados here, which are actually, I actually prefer them. I think they have a little bit better taste. They're huge, they're cheaper, but those are up 60%. And to give you an idea, I wrote down here, from March 2023 to March 2024, 1 kilo in 23 costs $36.79. That's about 96 cents, and a kilo is about 2 pounds. So 96 cents for 2 pounds. And as of last month, March, this year, $63.29. That's $1.67 for 2 pounds. Now, I know what you're saying. You're going, yeah, well, we are, one avocado is like $2, and but we're not there. You know, we're here, and everything that we do is in this economy. And after you get here for a while, you will hopefully rather quickly understand the concept of that, so you don't put yourself in a financial hole without realizing it. All right, next one. Always talking about animals here, because everybody's like, oh, animals. Oh, Renee, hi, a bit late. Been hearing a lot about EPS being taken over by the government. Yeah, when I'm done with the topic, if I get through the news and the topic, if we still have time, ask me then, and I'll talk about it. I'll give just kind of a quick overview. It could actually be a topic of its own. Okay, so here we are. Ruby, the ruby frog, which is poisonous. I did some reading on it. it's really poisonous. And it's not just poisonous if you touch it or lick it. It actually emanates a certain bubble around it, like fumes or whatever. I don't know if they're fumes, but there's toxicity around this frog. What happened was they live out in a small area. Woo! Little motorcycle race going on out there. Neighbors knew about it, talked about it or whatever. Neighbors knew about it. And at some point, they actually end up reporting them. Now, it could have been some kids. I don't know. There wasn't enough information to definitively say. But they reported because things like this, in particularly things that are maybe not headed to extinction, but potentially could be. I forget the name of that category. You're not supposed to have these things. And these stories come up a lot where people have certain birds or amphibians or lizards or things that they're not allowed to have. And so they came out, they investigated, they saw it, they had them. So they took it away. They didn't have to go to jail or get a fine. They were cautioned, and they took it and drove it out to wherever these things come from and let it go. Internet, Candios, preparing for a revolution. This year, they've been saving up. They've been talking about it. This year, it's being implemented. For all you paranoid freaks, I'm not talking about 5G. I'm talking about internet. They say by the end of this year, all of Candio will be wired for internet, including out in the country. It is not the case now. There's places where you don't have internet. And by the time we roll into next year, everywhere you go will have internet available. Added to that is we're fiber optic here in Armenia, but they're adding to that Montenegro. Where is it? I got it here somewhere. Montenegro or Tabida. They're not sure which. That'll be one of them. And then the other two that they are sure of now is Circassia, because it's near here, in Barcelona. So it's pretty cool. Another thing in this money is being set aside to create a Candio website that will have all kinds of stuff, things to do, places to see, tourist operations, hotels, restaurants. It'll be kind of a one-stop shop website app. So, it could be cool. On the other hand, I fear it a little bit because there's very few apps that actually work well, but, we'll see. And the last of the money is they're putting in to modernize. There's 8 training centers in Candio, and so they're upgrading the technology. I think, and some of them are actually installing internet for the first time. And there's 116 schools, like grade school, high school, in Candio that have not had internet, and they're all going to be wired up. They're first on the list. So that's all pretty cool, I think. I want you guys to help me on this. I see articles. I've dug. I've wasted way too much time. I cannot find where this is being built, but they're building this big aquatic multi-sports coliseum and Olympic pools and all kinds of stuff in one big complex. And it's moving along pretty good. In my travels, I've yet to see it. I cannot find where they're doing it. I can't find it in any articles. So if anybody knows, let me know. I'm just really bothering me. All right, let's do the other message here, and then we'll get to our topic. I just spent 2 weeks in the USA, was shocked for prices, glad to be back home. Yeah, there's always that too. Our prices are shocking to us because it's doubled in the last year, and we're on fixed incomes. It's not fun. And you look and say, well, we got the prices going up and you got the exchange rate coming down. Rents are going up. It's like, at what point is it going to break you? So, it's a concern. Hence, lifestyle talk today. Okay. First thing everybody's going to say is, what about safety? It's always, what about safety? And we're talking about Armenia Candio. And with the exception of a few places like Montenegro, not very safe. Kimbaya, it's not very safe in the city. Around it, it's fine country. Armenia, you got those 4 barrios, stay out of them. Other than that, you're going to be okay. So set it aside for now, because honestly, it's not going to be a concern, and I'll mention why in a bit. Ecuador government invaded Mexican embassy. It's against international law. Yeah, I saw the headline. I didn't read it because I've just been too busy to get to it. I want to. They also threw out the ambassador for Argentina. They don't like that they're reversing socialism there. Well, Petro doesn't. And while Petro has not been able to do a lot of the things that he tried to do, like nationalize the utilities and things like that, he still has a power to do certain things. But this embassy thing, I don't know how they're going to justify something like that. But anyway, lifestyle. And it could be for the rich and famous, but that's not where we're going with this. If you're going to live here, you have certain choices. You're going to live in the city. If you're going to live in the city, where in the city? You're going to live in the country. It's amazing how many people ask me, it's like, well, I want to live in the country, and how do I go about that? And oh, sorry. My throat's just going crazy today. Ah, I'm dying. Okay. So we'll talk about that too. Do you want to live upper middle class, or do you want to live lower middle class? I don't imagine you really want to live in poverty, and there's very few of us that can live rich, although there are some that can live rich on, like, if you have a pension of $3,000, you can live rich. You can have a cook and a personal assistant and a car and all kinds of things that'll take your money if you can afford that. Live in a 2-story penthouse and God knows what else, hacienda out anyway. So you got those choices. Another thing that will affect your lifestyle is your diet. For example, I always ate steak almost every night. Living here, I eat steak maybe once a month. I eat hamburgers maybe 4 or 5 times a month, and all the rest of the time it's chicken or pork or no meat at all. I go through a lot of eggs. So my diet has definitely changed. It hasn't changed because of the cost, although now it's starting to, I'm more conscious of it. But the change wasn't because of that. The change was more a matter of convenience and, how I live. You crave certain things and then you don't. I went for a period of time without meat because it took me a while to find good meat. Well, now I found the good meat, but I just don't crave it as much as I used to. So anyway, those things will definitely affect your lifestyle, financially and otherwise. And then activities. I mean, do you want to join the golf club? Do you want to be a private member and pay the price for that? Or do you just want to go out and walk around, or use the public tennis courts, or get a small membership at a place that's got swimming pool and bowling and stuff like that. So you can set yourself up to have to put out a lot of money every month, or you could set yourself up where it's not so great. I mean, last week we talked about it. We got we had Turtle. By moving from Bucaramanga to Socorro, he's saving, I believe it was about $400 a month. Well, it's pretty significant. He's changed his lifestyle. He actually upgraded his apartment. His apartment is way better. It's gorgeous. It's huge. So he's definitely upgraded where he's living. Downside is maybe he doesn't have access to the same malls and things like that. But again, you don't live in those, so it's something to consider. And then you got Mike. Now, I took a closer look at his budget, and he's definitely saving money. But if he were living equivalent in the north versus where he lives in the south, it's still significant even in the same city, and it works out to about $300 a month that he's saving on the basic things, like internet and rent and utilities and basic food, not counting transportation or restaurants, and Turtles really wasn't much of that either. So so the average pension is somewhere around $1,500 a month. It might be a little bit more now, but that's where it's been for a while. And if you can set it up so that you're living pretty well around $1,200 a month, or $1,000 to $1,200, and then based on other choices, maybe you can reduce that to $700. That leaves you more money to either set aside or go out to restaurants once a week, or things like that. Maybe more trips to other towns, because now you've got a little disposable income. You're not using it all up, just living. So these choices matter. Now I'm going to talk about farm, but let me, I love Mike's level. Yep. Getting married in 15 months to my Colombiana. You got to put that A on there. There's no Latinx around here. It's all male and female. Farm. It's amazing how many people, to me, it's amazing. And I grew up in the country. But I have to remind myself, and it was a rude awakening in Ecuador, because a lot of bad things happen if you live out in the middle of nowhere. Well, here, not really like that, but different place. You don't have the home invasions here like out there, although anything's possible. But there's an issue when it comes to living out in the country. Yeah. I'll get to that comment. When it comes to living out in the country, generalizing, because there's always going to be a little exception here or there, you're either going to live in a pretty expensive hacienda. A hacienda is a 2-story ranch house that's very nice, generally in a kind of a gated area, so have security, swimming pool, jacuzzi. You'll have maybe 2,000 square feet all to yourself. It's country gentleman living. It's very, very upscale. It's wealthy, but minimum maybe around $4 million a month. Typically 7 or 8. In case you want to know, that would be more than the average retirement for people. Average retirement right now around this exchange rate is somewhere around 6 million pesos. So you're not going to be going out and getting yourself 8 million hacienda. You're really not even going to get a 4 million, because that's going to put you in a problem. because if you live out in the country, there's going to be other requirements that will cost. And the other option is a little country farm. And they almost don't exist as far as being available. Because if somebody owns a farm, they're either operating it or they're leasing it to a Colombian to operate it as an income source. They're not just kind of sitting around waiting for renters. Land is precious here. Farmland is precious. And farmland is family. It's not like it was just bought yesterday. It doesn't change hands all that much. And so holding out for something like that almost won't happen. Although my friend, who I talked about maybe last year, that owns the farm, I went out. I think I even took some video clips and put it on here at some point. It's very big. It's got a river that runs through it. It's got a house, but the house is basically a block house. 2 or 3 bedrooms, kitchen, but it's not finished. You would have to go in, put a ceiling in, walls, and maybe tiles on the floor. And, you'd have to put a lot of money into it. She's selling it simply because of the tax burden. She inherited it from her father. Her brother owns the other parcel. It was a pretty big parcel at one time, and it was a working farm. She's had people live there to caretake it, but they didn't really caretake it. So, she's trying to sell it. Actually, I've looked into this because I didn't know, is that a good price or not? I've looked into it, and it's actually a great price, but 400 million pesos. So that's a little over $120,000, something like that, or 8 hectares. Somebody might know how big that is. 8.5, I think it is. With a river, perfect coffee growing, plantain, yucca, things like that. She's trying to sell it. She would actually rent that. I asked her actually a month or so ago. She would rent it for about $1 million a month. Problem is, you're going to have to put a ton of money in to make it livable. Now, it does have internet, does have water, it has the basic things. The internet may not be the fastest, but certainly usable, and you could do some light streaming with it. But you got to make it livable. Now you're investing in a property that you don't own, that you're renting. And so all that money goes in. It's only going to be a benefit to you as long as you're actually renting it. Now, you could work up a contract to say, why am I talking about this? Because these situations can come up. So I want to explain it. You could work up a contract where ultimately you leave the door open as first option to buy. And so that money that you put into it, you could lock in the purchase price in a contract so that they don't turn around and say, well, now that you've improved it, it's worth more. Well, it is, but you don't want to give away what you put in. So you could work up a contract to lock that in. But what's the downside of this? And that could actually be, all that I just described could be fun. It could sound just like what you're looking for. But unless you have a fair amount of money to put into the place, for example, you will have to have a vehicle. You won't have any choice because there's no taxis out there. There's no buses out there. You could walk for an hour to get where there's a bus, but what if there's an emergency? It's just not practical. So you've got to get a car. That means you got to have insurance. That means you've got to do the mechanical inspections. You got to do the upkeep on it. All of those things that are necessary. That can be a burden. Your style of life almost becomes hermit-like, because even though by miles it wouldn't be, no place in Cadillac would be that far from population center, the way the roads are, that kind of thing, it can be it's definitely an ordeal. It's not like I'm going to jump in the car and run down to the supermarket. And then you have rain will wash out roads. They repair them all the time out in the country because they don't put into the roads. They're not 4-lane roads. They're going out to that farm, for example, there's a number of places on that road where you have to stop because only one car can go through. So you have to kind of wait, car goes through, and then you can proceed on. And those things will, you get a pretty good rainstorm and gets washed out. Now what are you going to do? You could be landlocked there for a week. So I won't beat it to death, but to live in the country, you either have to live in a place that's going to be above 95% of people's budget, or it's going to be a situation like that where you're still going to have a lot of money in order to live there. It's certainly doable. Either one is doable. The second one, few and far between. That's the only one I know of, and I was asking for about a year of everybody I knew. So finding farms is like pulling teeth here. All right, let me go back to this. Only wish she would agree living in Medellin, Armenia, but she won't leave her city, which is hot. Speaking of lifestyle, problem with Medellin is it's so damn expensive. It's like 40% more than here. Same for me. I actually like Cali. Cali actually pretty well, but I don't think it would be my first choice. But my Colombiana, there's no U in Colombiana is there, and she makes it well worthwhile. Will Lone Wolf, woof, woof. Message retracted. Are you cussing me out? Mike Jarvis, Rob, hola amigo, how you guys doing? Charles, they don't want to leave where their family lives. Exactly. Family is everything. She doesn't want to come to New York either, except for the week at most. Yeah, that's Mike Jarvis. I'm not living where I live to save money. I know that. I didn't mean to put that out. I live where I live in Colombia. Is there more to that? To live in Colombia. Oh, sorry. I guess Juno is living by countryside. Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't. Well, let me talk about the South, actually. South of Armenia. So we know in the North, it's what I'm always promoting. And I say that all the crime exists in the South, but it only exists in certain areas. There's some very nice areas. The thing in the South, in general, it's mostly traditional, older, two-story house next to each other, small rooms, small bathrooms, just local tiendas, local restaurants. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a couple places I would live without, I mean, if I needed to, and I would actually enjoy it. But most things that I like to do, even though I can't do them very often, are here in the North. Like if I want to go to the supermarket and buy a couple items that are in the U.S., if you live in the South, you kind of have to at least go up to Central in order to get to that point, generally, depending on what it is. If I want to go to some international restaurant, like my favorite Bianco for Italian, they don't have one like that in the South. Down there, it's more traditional. Now you get pizzas and burgers and things like that, but I'm talking, like the Spanish restaurant and the Italian restaurant, things like that. Steak houses. There are some. But it's just not the same. Where here, you live in it's a smaller area, a lot less people. It's easier to navigate around. It's easier to live in a place where you can walk to pretty much everything that you want. And in the South, it's not quite like that. On the other hand, most of your living takes place in, the apartment or house that you get, and there's no problem because it's so inexpensive. All right, so you can't really walk to the things I'm talking about, but you can jump in a taxi and maybe from there, maybe pay $4 each way and take a taxi up, spend the day walking around doing whatever, go to the mall, end it in a nice restaurant, get a taxi and go back home. So there's ways to navigate these things. But let me show you a couple things in the South. All right, here's a map and arrows pointing to this particular area that I'm going to show you. This is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a building right where that arrow is pointing. And where you see it's not ultra luxury, it's a very nice place. It's pretty typical to what you would get in the north. That's 8,000 or 850,000 pesos. This same place in the north at today's rental prices would be more like maybe 1.4 million. So not quite double, but considerably more. All right, let's see. Got a few things coming up here. I think this is the last picture. And then we get to, yeah. Here's another building that's in the south in that area. Here's an overview of that area. There are houses, and then you've also got a high rise, and you see the swimming pool. This is down in those houses, so this is gated. There's another high rise. Mike, you'll recognize that area, I'm sure. So there's nice places to live down there. Not as many here. On the other hand, there's a lot less competition because people that live in the South are, very often it's family property, or if they're going to go live somewhere, they tend to live more traditionally. And so you've got high rises, and there's, a couple dozen down there. So there's not as many to choose from, but there's less competition to get them, which is why the prices are what they are. Just because it's a lower price doesn't mean they're inferior places to live, because in many cases they're not. You have to take it case by case. Use the voice translator to create messages no matter what I do. And so, okay, put you in Colombia and spells Cali wrong most of the time. You answered my question about veterans. You're still doing Skype calls? Yes, I am. Do a couple a month generally. Help goes to the fraud cases. Man, I don't want to do that video, that live next month, because at least one of those kind of humiliating. The other two, not really, but one of them is. Anyway, Mr. Lone Wolf. Good morning for Fort Lauderdale. Which one would you advise for active adults under 60 for early retirement? Armenia, Manizales, Ibagué. I'm not a fan of movies, restaurants, cafes. Okay. I'm not a fan of Ibagué. Like every city, there's nice areas, but for me, it's too hot. You wouldn't think it would be because it's relatively similar elevation. It's actually further back in the mountains. You're also kind of living at the base of a kind of a terrifying volcano if you live close to it. So Ibagué would not be for me. But like I said, there are some nice areas there, and there's a particular area that's kind of southwest of the city that's a lot cooler. It's all in treed areas. That area I just showed you in the south, that's surrounded by trees. I don't know if you noticed it in that one picture. It's Brisa something is the name of that area. But anyway, so Ibagué for me would not be an option. I know people that live in Ibagué. I know a couple people that don't want to be living there anymore. I know at least one person that really loves it. So it's nice that we have choices. Manizales, for what you describe, for most people, and I say this all the time, for most people, I believe Manizales is a superior place to live over Armenia in many ways. I love Armenia. I love that it's more of a blue collar place. It's more comfortable for me. I love that people are more informal. Manizales, people tend to be a little more formal, but they're very nice. I mean, it's not like they're not friendly. It's just there's so much more happening there than there is here. Some people call it the little Medellin, and I think that's more of an insult. But I think what they're getting to is you have so many options for so many different things, and there's so much. It's a gorgeous place, and Armenia, the area around us is gorgeous, and there's certain. Armenia is full of packets of trees and bamboo and nature everywhere. It's like all intermixed throughout, kind of like some old New England town. But it's a little jumbled up too. It's like somebody put poverty and wealthy and middle class all in a bag, shook it up and dumped it on the table. It's all a jumble. So Armenia, I've said a million times, I'm in Armenia. It's my choice because of a historical tie that I have about just the general feeling of being here that much relates to my experiences 20 some years ago. When I'm here, I feel like I'm home. People that come here tend to end up feeling the same way. Mike, you're still on here. You've lived here for a few years now. I mean, how do you feel about Armenia? But when I look at it, I loved Manizales. And if it wasn't for the ties that I had, if I wanted to live in a place that had more things like Medellin, Manizales, I think Manizales is one of the best cities in the world. I think it's probably the best city in Colombia from an objective point of view, taking the feelings and emotions out of it. So I guess that's my long answer. Will, sorry for the typo, didn't notice. Eagle waiting tomorrow for moon eclipse in Dallas, Texas. I don't think we see it here. MB90, buenos dias, how you doing? Charles, seeing rents unfurnished, 1.2 to 1.8 in doorman buildings with pool, high rise in Monteria, 2 to 3 bedroom. Always talk with the doormen and then the owners. Definitely the way to do it. Rents in the north here are similar. I'm shocked that 1.8 is not unusual anymore, where it used to be very unusual. A few years ago, 1.5 was, outside of getting richy rich, that was kind of high end. That was very upper middle class. I've lived in a place that was 850,000. I lived in a 1.1 million. I've lived in a 1.4, and now I'm living in a place that will be part of my scam video next week, although I haven't been scammed yet. But next year, it's coming, and I'm going to tell you about it as a precautionary tale. And I'll definitely thank Turtle, because he actually went through it and fed me a lot of information that caused me to stay here for another year to position myself where it won't happen. I tell you guys all the time, do not use an agent. Deal with the owners. And I tell you how to do it. Walk the barrio, go see the doorman, look for the signs, handle it that way. Quit trying to buy on the internet like you would in the United States and get an agency and supposedly, do all this work for you. And they're not representing you at all. You are the mark. Particularly if it's, well, won't go there. But a legitimate Colombian agency, they make their money on the back end and you're the mark. You deal with an owner, it's a whole different ballgame. They want to have a good relationship with you because they want to make sure the rent's coming in. And one thing about gringos, at least around here and in Manizales, we have a reputation of paying our bills. Gives you a definite leg up. I've lived in 4 different places and I've never had to have a cosigner, which you'll see people all over Facebook. You can't get it without it. They're full of crap. You just don't know how to do it. And it's not that difficult. And I tell you on this channel that if you implement those things, Mike's never had a cosigner. I know that. As a matter of fact, everybody in the chat that lives here, none of them have ever needed a cosigner because it's not necessary. We don't pay big deposits or anything like that. So anyway, back to lifestyle. And then I'll talk a little bit about the healthcare. When it comes to cost of living, you don't have a lot of control over much of that. But when it comes to lifestyle, which will directly relate to your cost of living, you have a lot of control over that. And so rather than come here necessarily with the idea of, I need to get a really nice apartment and I want it to have a easterly view of the mountains with a balcony of this size, and I want to have a living room of this size, and I want to, having all of this stuff, kind of set aside, because until you live here for a while, you don't really know what you want. You think you do, but it changes. It changes for everybody. And so don't get hung up on that. You can make your list of priorities, but be flexible and consider other options. Definitely lay your budget out, because whatever you think it's going to be, it will be more. And as time goes on, particularly when inflation's hitting, it gets even worse, and you've got to build a cushion in there. So, I mean, if your expenses, real expenses, come to about $1,200 a month, you better have $1,500 a month coming in, because there will be things that if you don't, will put you behind the 8 ball or in debt. So you've got to have some breathing room. Yes, was never asked for a cosigner. Yeah, but if you go on Facebook and if you mention that, you'll have 18,000 experts telling you how you have to do it. I think I was asked once and I just told them no. I'm pretty sure. I have to think on it. I don't want to tell you wrong, but it seems to me I was asked once. I was also once asked for a 6-month deposit. I think I told you guys about that. And I ended up, no, we're not going to do that. Okay. So a lot goes into it. So when you're planning to come here, you really want to consider everything that I've just talked about, because it will position yourself to have, you're going to have a good life here, but you want to set it up so that it's as problem-free and stress-free as possible. And when I give you advice for things about banking, for example, or whatever it is, cars, heed that advice at least for the first year. I strongly recommend it, because once you get the lay of the land and you see things firsthand, you're going to have a whole bunch of adjustments. Almost everybody does. All right, so that's the end of that. If you have any questions, go ahead and shoot them out. Now let me talk about the healthcare. I'm just going to tell you in a nutshell, because there's so much up in the air right now, we don't know. Last year, the 3 top health insurance, Sanitas, Sura, which I have, and Comiva, I think was the other one, together wrote a letter to the government saying that if they don't alter the way they're doing things, there's going to be a healthcare crisis in Colombia. Petro has been trying to nationalize healthcare. He wants to get away from the way it is now, which places Colombia out of 190 countries in the top 22 countries, has some of the best healthcare in the world. And all those that have you gone through it, that you all rave about it. The experience is amazing. And he wants to change it. He wants something. He wants a single payer socialist government controlled program that will insert middle level managers that will determine what health care you get, which doesn't happen now. You and your doctor determine it. So he wants to do that. He looks at the models of Ecuador, which runs in the red every year, and they have to scrounge money. The last year I was there, they borrowed $4 billion to pay off the debt for their healthcare system from the Chinese. And for that, they had to give up certain mining rights. And it doesn't go away because the next year they were in debt again. And in debt, I'm surprised it's even lasted as long, but the healthcare in Ecuador is degraded to the point where it's almost worthless. Here, it's been awesome, and it's been awesome for years, ever since they went to this program. And the poorest have coverage. What happens, making this very simplistic so I don't have to go into a lot of pointless minutia. All these companies, they're private companies, but they've all agreed, signed on to a plan that will take a certain part of the money that they earn, and it'll go off to the government. And the government will use that money to reimburse hospitals or whatever for indigent, poor, people that don't have health insurance because they can't afford it. They can still go to emergency. They can still go and get medical care. And that pool of money will be dispersed to pay for that. Well, what's been going on with Petro for a couple years now is he's having the people that administrate that drag their feet. And so what happens is the hospital here in the north, for example, when I was there, there were several street people, blood all over them. Who knows what they got into? Your typical way too skinny, acting like they're on drugs, beat up, whatever, haven't washed in a year. They were there getting health care. It's not costing them. So the hospital will write up that bill and they'll submit it, and they need to get paid back. Well, this hospital in the north, it's been months since they've received a payment from the government. There's a huge outstanding bill that's accumulated to the point where they're not going to be able to keep going. They can't afford to do it because they still have to pay, the wages, and they have to pay all of this stuff. So it's put them in a real bind. The insurance companies are in a similar situation. They're sending that money to the government, but any poor people that are on their plan, because that can happen. You can get an assignment. It's called CISBEN. It's a program so that you can actually get one or another insurance company. But if they're not getting reimbursed for that, how do they keep providing the services? They operate already pretty close to the bone. Doctors here are not like in the United States. Doctors here have to work for a living. Doctors here don't make $10,000 in a month. Doctors here make as much as I don't know, like an airline pilot or something. It's maybe $4,000 in a month would be a high wage. So it's not like people are scamming, and you don't have a middle layer to make these determinations. And Petro's doing it because he's trying to force a crisis in order to say we have to reform the system. Now, most people are onto it. I'm glad to see, and it made all the news recently. People are kind of onto it, but the thing is, it's almost like a game of chicken. You may know he's doing it, but he's still doing it. And so how long can we last? Now, he's not long for that office, but he's long enough where he could create more of a, right now, it's not really a crisis, it's a potential crisis. Although for Sanitas, it's a real problem because they've been hit the worst of this, and they're financially in a tough situation. And it's depending on where you live in Colombia, it's either the best or second best health insurance you can have. So it's a problem. I have to believe it's going to work out. these things happen. Politicians play politics, and people are onto this right now. And you can only push Colombians so far. When you've seen it, they'll go to the streets, and I'm talking grandma and grandpa, and it's not just Antifa. The people will hit the streets. So we'll see, and that's why I don't want to go any deeper than that. This will just give you a general idea of the situation, but we're not even close to having any kind of. We don't know where this is going to go. Charles, what do you do about your U.S. Medicare? I have decided Part A, B, and GAP plans if you expect to live in Colombia next 30 years. Okay, the free one is free. You don't have to worry about it. But the other one, you have to pay $160, $70, $80 a month. I don't remember what it is. That one you can cancel because it's not usable here anyway. And you can, if you're going back to the U.S. and you're concerned, you can get travel insurance to go back there. There's add-ons that you can get here in the insurance that will cover your expenses back there. Just kind of a reverse situation. But paying for that is kind of pointless if you're not ever going to use it. You're just throwing almost $200 in the garbage. Now, some people told me, once you cancel it, it's done. You can't get it back. It's absolutely not true. I actually called the Medicare office. I forget what it was, like 5 years ago. I actually called and talked to somebody, and it's absolutely not true. But what they do have is that you won't get it at the same rate. It will increase. I think there's like a 10% penalty. May have changed, but it was something like that. So if it was $160 a month, for example, you would pay $16 more. On the other hand, if you lived in Colombia for 2 or 3 years, the amount of money you would save more than offsets what that's going to cost you. So dollars for dollars, you're way ahead of the game. In other words, you live here for 2 years and you're paying $40 a month for healthcare as compared to, whatever it would be in the United States, your co-pays and, because you're still with Medicare, there's still money that comes out of pocket. The money that you're going to save is going to be, if you were to accumulate it, put it in a pot, will more than pay for that. But the idea that you can't get it is not true. The only thing that people might misconstrue is they do have enrollment dates. So if I go there in the first part of April, I may not be able to enroll in it until May, for example. But that doesn't mean you can't get it. It just means that you can't just enroll on any day. You have to wait for the next enrollment date. And I don't want to say it wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was every month, like once a month. Which honestly would kind of make sense anyway. So there's that. All right. Did I cover everything? Is there anything else that you needed to know? What did you think of today? Feel free to use the comments. When I ask you for comments, it's not because I'm trying to boost the algorithm, because it's not possible on this channel. We all know that. Can't get paid. Hard to get seen unless you actually know the channel to see it. But I appreciate the comments, and they help me. I kind of get guidance from you and the emails and a lot of what goes on. And I mention those things, and I've had topics, or I'll spend time talking about one thing or another that came as a result of you guys sending me some feedback. So please do. Please do. It's kind of important, Okay, here's my email. Peter Pan. Excellent episode. Thank you. Well, it's not Lauren, Loren, but that's cool. My fiance in Bogota says the local water is being turned off or rationed in areas. People have to stock up on water. Have you heard anything about this? Yeah, I will talk about that. Your wealth of information. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Can't wait till next week. Explosive. Yeah, Turtle knows some of this. Yeah, you just can't wait to see me beat red and humiliated. That's all it is. Um, I'm I'm on to you. I know that. Um, okay, turn the water off. There's two parts of this. One is El Nino has been devastating in some areas. In El Nino, one of the characteristics is dry. We went for a long time with no water here, or no rain, or hardly any rain. Um, Bogota is not immune. So El Nino has had an effect. And you got, what's Bogota? It's like 12 million people or something. That's a huge city. So those things can become critical. The other thing is, for the last few years, Colombia has sunk a ton of money in infrastructure of water in the cities. We're going through it here. On any given day, there'll be an announcement that maybe 3 barrios won't have water from 8 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon because they're digging it up, replacing pipes. This has been going on for like a year and a half through Armenia. Yesterday, when I went to the bank, I was in a taxi and I'm right down by the Portal del Condillo Mall. And right there, they had the street dug up and it was a 1 lane because they're replacing a pipe in there. So there's that. So you combine the two and you can have water issues. Here, because of where we're located, it's almost impossible for us to actually have a real water issue because, I mean, it's perpetually green because there is so much water here. There's rivers and streams and waterfalls everywhere. So that's pretty good. So you can't live on 1,100 a month in Armenia. You can, but it'll be tough. It'll be limiting. Let me put it that way. It'll be limiting. You'll have to plan for it. You'll have to live in the South. You'll have to. You won't be eating steak every day. You won't be living poor, but you'll be living probably lower to middle class, lower middle class to middle class. Where if you're up around the average, you'll be living more middle to maybe even a little into the upper middle. So yes, you definitely can, but you can't just blindly do it. You got to know what you're doing. You have to plan for it. Andromeda, I haven't seen you in a while. I just arrived. I'm sure to watch the rerun. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. The La Nina. Last week, whoever said it, I apologize. I just wasn't aware, and I think I said that. But they said, well, La Nina is there now. Sort of. La Nina is kind of coming in, and it's not in full effect. But we're actually seeing some effect on some days. But El Nino we're in transition, and they're saying that sometime later this month, La Nina will be all in. And I would much prefer it. You get more rain. I'm cool with the rain, particularly the way it happens here. You get cooler temperatures. Hey, it's a hell of a lot better being in the mid to upper 70s than to be in the low 80s. Yeah, I prefer it. So last week when I said no, well, technically no, it wasn't then. But as of this week, we actually are at the beginning of that transition. So you're right in that. How you could save money if you pay every year $1,200 per retirement visa agent. I don't know. I don't know your budget. I don't know if it's doable. Also, you have to listen when I talk about these things. I didn't say that you have to do that every year. I said that you could be in a position where that could happen, but there's ways around certain things. Like one thing that was misunderstood, people only hear what they hear, is going from a 3-year visa to potentially a 1-year visa. And that is kind of becoming the norm. However, I know somebody, this is actually not the first one, but during this year, when this reinterpretation has taken place for the pension visa, I know of a person that bought himself enough of private insurance that he got 2-year visa. And if he had bought even more, he could have gotten a 3-year visa, because they're basing it on the provable insurance contract of when you're going to be here. So if you're getting 3 months to a year in order to get that visa, you're only going to get a 1-year visa. So, you know, you got to do some research to work around that kind of thing. As far as the agent goes, they don't pull that much money. It's I think it works out to maybe $100, something like that, of the amount. The amount is actually in the visa, and it goes to the consulate. You got a number of different charges. There's a translation takes place, some things like that. So, could you spend $1,200 a year for retirement? You could, but it doesn't mean it will be that way. It doesn't mean it has to be that way. You're going to have to do your homework on your situation. His dudeness abides, another name I haven't seen in a while. There could be power shortages due to the dependence on hydroelectric. Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. I mean, there could be a lot of things, but there's no reason for us to think that. And I know you're thinking water levels and that kind of thing, but I'm living in Armenia, in Candio. And we don't draw our electric from all those dams around Medellin and north of there. They've got quite a few of them. But it's not like they're running dry. Plus, we're in transition now, so this is going to be quickly corrected. We got quite a bit of rainfall. We got more rainfall in the last week than we probably had in the 2 months prior. You know, so those things, they come and go. You're going to have periods where it's relatively drought, but it's not like nature's broken. It's not like, oh, there's climate change that's killing it. It's not like that at all. We've always had these cycles. Here in Colombia, there's a history. You have El Niños and you have La Niñas, and it's cycles, and it's been there as long as people ever notice them. So you run through these cycles, and so you run through a time when you have this issue, and then it's, you know, and then it goes back to normal. Or in this case, you know, we're rolling right into a La Nina, which is actually pretty good, because that means we'll kind of supercharge that water back in there. So that's pretty cool. How soon can you get Colombian insurance after marriage to a Colombian? I don't know. You know, specific things, legal things like that. You really got to talk to people that know your particular situation. And you know, I'm trying to get even further away from some of the things, because people will misunderstand, they'll misconstrue. Maybe I'll misspeak sometime, and next thing you know, I'm getting beat up over I'm giving bad information. I'm not giving bad information, but you might have bad ears, or maybe I got a day where I said the wrong word by accident, because this comes off the cuff. I mean, I make notes and I refer to them, but I'm not reading anything. I'm just talking to you. And when you talk, you misspeak once in a while, and you have to be able to accept that. It's not going to be perception, or perfection. I mean, see, I just misspoke. It could be your perception, but you're not going to get perfection out of me. And so if I misspeak or you mishear, and then you operate on that, that's a problem. And so things that are critical, or law or tax, I'm really trying to back away more from that, so that there isn't some inadvertent issue. I can't give you all the details of what it's going to be for you, because it may not even be right for you. So I can just talk about my life, my experience, things that I find out, information, things that I'm telling you here, that you can take that, give you thought, is to go look. Now, I had somebody 2 weeks ago that wrote me and asked me to research a topic that was a very basic routine topic, nothing hidden about it. I'm not anybody's research bitch. You know, you could write to me that same period of time that you wrote to me. You could have Googled what you were after. You know, you'll find 50 articles. It was such a basic thing. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm not trying to call anybody out in particular. It's just, it's nonsense. I'm not here for that. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is so you could see what it's like in my life, people that I know, how I navigate certain things next week, how I thoroughly humiliate myself and lose money and learn from it so I don't make that mistake again. And I'll tell you as much as I can tell you so that you get the idea of what to avoid, what it will be in your particular situation. How would I know? But it'll put your ears up when I talk about the real estate agency, for example. You might have a completely different experience. It just so happens that I now know that my experience would have been the same as Turtle's. I know it. I'm on to the game now. I will never make that mistake again. I only did it to do a video. I mean, I didn't think it was going to turn into some kind of issue. I figured, well, I'll go there, I'll do the agent, I'll put up with the extra cost for a year so that I know firsthand. And I did pull, you know, a couple good things out of it. So I did the video, but now I'm stuck with it. I should be actually moving this month. I could have been in a new place on the 1st, but now I'm locked in, you know, for another year to avoid getting screwed on the back end. We're talking millions. Well, now I know, so it won't happen. Doesn't mean that every agency is going to do to you. It's just that I have learned it is common practice what they're doing. And so there's a pretty damn good chance that you could run into something similar. And so I'll tell you about it generically. So hope you understand. Hope you understand. Not your Colombian lawyer. I'm not your Colombian tax accountant. And nor do I ever try to be. I avoid those things, but I'm even going to back off a little bit more on it just because of, you know, some things that, you know, yeah, the one that, these things don't bother me. You know, if I get an email, I don't get worked up over it, but I actually had to laugh at the guy, and I LOL, laugh out loud. I actually laughed out loud or chuckled when he wanted me to go research this topic that, and I'm thinking, he wrote like 2 paragraphs. In that period of time, you would have had all that information at your fingertips. Why are you telling me to do it? You know, you paid me? Okay, well, that would be different. I'll certainly go out of my way for that. Maybe get you in touch with people. But, you know, my life isn't to, you know, to just work for the general public for nothing. And for nothing, I don't even mean just monetary. I mean, just in general. I mean, that's not what I'm here for. I do this because I love it. And a lot of you guys support this channel so I can continue doing it. But, yeah, there is a Google out there. Okay, I'm getting endless messages, and we're already half hour over. I really do appreciate you guys. I can't thank you enough for the help that you give me for this channel. And I can't wait to tell you what I haven't been able to tell you. I'm just waiting for a trigger moment, and I'll be able to tell you. I really expect to be able to unload it this month. I hope the hell it doesn't go into May. It's all good. It's great. What else? Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. So, again, thanks for the nice comments, and I will see you next week where you can watch me humiliate myself more than normal. Ciao.